What's up, everybody? I hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to the channel. The topic here today is going to be about the parallels between statism and religion. And to begin, I'm approaching this from the perspective of an atheist. But your personal religious views should not matter when assessing these ideas. A Christian or a Buddhist should just as easily be able to grasp the concepts here, because I specifically want to put these ideas forward to other atheists like myself, because our particular little camp is typically very supportive of big government initiatives and often blinded by the propaganda the state uses. They tend to be more likely to see the state as a useful tool for molding and shaping the sort of societies that they want to see in the world, but are seemingly oblivious to the constant failings, or more importantly, the moral and logical inconsistencies of having a state at all, let alone a large and powerful one. The logical inconsistency is the most apparent one to me as an atheist, because in atheist circles that I've wandered in over the years, logic was usually seen as the key to the debates over the truth of religious claims. Why is it that many atheists never apply this same logical consistency and skepticism to the power structures of society? I don't know. But the following are some thoughts as to the parallels between state and religion. It should be obvious to anyone paying attention, but separation of church and state is a false dichotomy. The state is a church. The religion is called statism. Regardless of the nation and whatever varying systems of government there may be, statism is basically a faith in the power structure of a relatively small minority of people in the society having a monopoly power on the biggest actions and existing not just outside, but above the rules and the norms of the rest of society. No other individuals, or a collection of individuals, be they businesses, corporations, celebrities, etc., have this privilege unless it is bestowed upon them by bureaucrats nesting like spiders in the halls of power. The state in this sense is an inconsistency. Certain aspects of how the state conducts business and maintains its stranglehold over the populace is directly similar to how religion operates. And the following are several examples. Tithing not only exists in the statist sense, but it is compulsory via taxation. Commandments are compulsory as well. They're called laws. Only again, it should be stated that these laws do not apply to the clergy, or as they're known in statist terminology, the politicians. A violation of these commandments, however arbitrary these commandments may be, is subject to direct punishment, not in some other life that may not exist, but here and now in the one life we know we get. This includes activities like avoiding the exploitation of compulsory tithing, consuming plants the state deems unacceptable, or perhaps harboring weaponry that the state deems as a threat to their monopoly on initiating violence. We pledge an undying allegiance to the statist symbol of the flag in common rituals. What is the flag if not the holy cross of statism? How many citizens even accept jailing their fellow man for disrespecting the symbol? In place of Holy Scripture, we have the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Presidents of long-gone eras and the Founding Fathers are essentially deified, and monuments are erected in their glory. The state has its own rituals, involving the public signing of laws and the inauguration of new leaders. Politicians are the clergy, and every 4 years we get the illusion of choice into who will be the figurehead of the church. This church requires mandatory participation also, so there can be no opting out. The choice isn't left to the individual as to whether or not they want to partake in church activities. Instead, there are penalties for leaving, the most common being ostracizing, perhaps being cast off as a radical or demonized as a traitor. Just like with any other major religion, the state depends on propaganda and indoctrination to spread the faith and maintain total control of the coerced congregation. In government schools, kids are told things that almost directly mirror the silly stories of religion. George Washington never told a lie. God chose this land for the sake of providing freedom to the world. Lincoln was a great emancipator who freed all the slaves and preserved our glorious Union. FDR saved capitalism. America is a democracy, all of which are nothing other than revisionist propaganda, created and propagated to fertilize the seeds of trust in the glory of the state power and nationalism. The state will always have a vested interest in indoctrinating the youth of the nation to depend upon it, when in reality, the state's relationship to our society is that of a parasite, leeching the lifeblood off the host. Just look at the narrative the media talking heads and politicians are using to describe the events that just took place at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The media coverage constantly and relentlessly referred to the Capitol grounds as sacred. They referred to them as the sacred halls of democracy, being defiled by traitors. Nowhere in the private sector do we speak of things this way. There are too many parallels to ignore. Temples and shrines to state power are abound all over the country. Human sacrifice in the name of the state is seen as an honorable duty that many aspire to in our modern crusades. And these crusades are not for some god in the heavens, but for the concept of spreading democracy and, ironically, peace among the nations. The apologetics are eerily similar as well. Ask a Christian why God says you can't kill people, but yet it's seemingly okay for God to drown every human being on the planet, except one man and his family, and they'll tell you basically that might makes right. Essentially, God could squash you, so he can do what he wants. He knows best. Well, what a fascinating parallel to the state, which will jail you for the remainder of your life, or even execute you for murder. Yet the last 3 presidents will get paid perpetually with money stolen from you and I, while having the blood of a couple million people on their hands. Might makes right, it would seem. They can counterfeit money with impunity. You and I will serve decades, if not life, in prison for such activities. Yet the state maintains this right for no other reason than they've conditioned hundreds of millions of people that society at large could not function without them. These same people that you and I both know are largely sociopathic, corrupt monsters. And it isn't that large portions, even the majority of society, are unaware of the fact that these bureaucrats are sociopathic monsters. Quite the contrary, most Americans, when polled, will give the government a sub 20% approval rating. But then nearly 2/3 of Americans will support giving them more power and task them with expanding the government to include even new duties and taxes. This is the power of the statist propaganda. By indoctrinating the populace into believing in lies like democracy and that the average person can will good-hearted humanitarians into the halls of power, the cycle of murder, theft, and property right violations persists. The church of the almighty state constantly grows as more power is absorbed, when in reality, the skeptic mind, the logical thinker, should be shrugging off the shackles of the greatest con job in the history of human civilization, and that is the state.